It's been a year since Though I Fall hit the shelves, and honestly, it feels surreal. This is a story about legacy, about resilience, and the people who inspired it. Today I want to take a few minutes to reflect on the journey behind the book, the inspiration, the challenges that went into it, and how it really changed me as a writer and a person. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for stopping by today. Before we get rolling, I wanted to give you guys a spoiler alert that some of the things I'm going to be talking about are things that are covered in the first book and the second book. If you haven't read it, but you plan to, maybe come back and revisit this video at a later time, as I'm going to be definitely talking about some of the plot points and things that are kind of key to the story. But if you don't plan to read the books, or you really don't care to, or if you haven't listened to the audiobooks or anything like that, and you just want to kind of get a gist of what the story is about, then feel free to stick around. So when I finished writing Legacy Drive, it released on May 28th of 2019. To be honest, I didn't plan for it to be a series. I really only planned for it to be a one-book standalone story. It wasn't until the months that followed that I really felt that there was more in it, specifically for the character of Chad. Chad Watson is the son of the protagonist in the first book, Legacy Drive. He is the son of Bill Watson. There's a big jump at the end of Legacy Drive. That giant gap that was at the end of the first book between where we see Chad at the end of the chapters versus where we see him at the end of the epilogue, there's a lot that's happened in there. And I really felt that I wasn't doing him or the story itself very much justice by not telling his story. It was also a chance conversation that I had with a New York Times best-selling author. It was an opportunity I had to chat with him over the phone, and I was telling him about how I was really struggling to get Legacy Drive out there, and he told me something that really changed my life, changed my perspective on how I write books. He said, "Paul, write another one." I was immediately kind of repulsed by the idea, because for those of you who read kind of the behind the scenes of Legacy Drive, it took me 6 years to write. And it's not a journey I really wanted to go on again. And the days that following that phone call, I just got struck with inspiration, really all at once. And I got the main ideas for what became Though I Fall, and for what we're going to talk about later, book 3 in the series. Let's talk now about the character of Chad Watson and really some of the inspirations behind what I feel is a very complex character. When I started writing Though I Fall, I knew Chad Watson wasn't going to have it easy. He was going to struggle, physically, mentally, emotionally, but I didn't want the struggle to define him. I wanted it to refine him, if that makes sense. One of the main inspirations behind the story of Chad is actually a novel about a man named Adam Brown. I'm going to have to read the name of this book because it's a fairly long title. The book is called Fearless: The Undaunted Courage and Ultimate Sacrifice of Navy SEAL Team 6 Operator Adam Brown. I listened to the audiobook of that several years ago, and it's one of those stories where you don't think it's real, because the things that Adam Brown went through as a person, as an individual, and then overcame them, it's almost superhuman. I mean, he struggled with an extreme drug addiction. It got to the point where it was so bad that his parents had him arrested, and he actually went to jail. After some time passed, he started cleaning up his life. He said, the idea of being a Navy SEAL sounded pretty cool. I guess I'll give that a shot. There are some people who train their entire lives, or their entire young adult lives, to go and try to be a Navy SEAL, and even then, most of them don't succeed. So for someone like Adam Brown, who struggled with drug addiction, for him to just do that on a whim, and then go all the way from not only passing buds, but also going all the way to like the top tier of SEAL Team 6. I mean, it's unfathomable. And the injuries he faced, he lost his fingers in a Humvee accident, he lost one of his eyes in a training accident, and the guy just kept going. So when I was modeling the character of Chad, there's a lot of Adam Brown in Chad when it comes to his resilience, when it comes to his just undaunting courage to refine himself despite his circumstances. There's a lot of Adam Brown in the story. Regarding Chad's injury, the injury that we see in the first book, Chad obviously still deals with it, as you can see just from reading the first chapter when he's racing a kart with hand controls. One of the real life drivers that really inspired Chad, and I think just by saying hand controls, you may already know who I'm talking about, is Robert Wickens. Robert Wickens was an IndyCar driver, and he was involved in a horrible crash that left him partially paralyzed.
The red machine, the Lucas Oil entry of Canada's Robert Wickens.
Oh, that's going to be tight through there.
Oh,
Early touch. Oh my God.
Oh, that's Robert Wickens. And his teammate is into him as well, James Hinchcliffe. That was ugly. That was frightening.
But here he is now, still racing. He's out there racing and winning using hand controls. They literally pick him up and carry him out of the car and put him in his wheelchair.
And they're in the game. Solid return for Robert Wickens here in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
But the guy goes out there and he still wins. So it showed me that, again, resilience. That's really what I wanted to come across with Chad. And then finally, another real life driver, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name. I hope I'm saying it right. Connor Zilisch. You know who I'm talking about. Connor is the second youngest driver in history to win the 24 Hours of Daytona.
One of the most prestigious races in the history of all motorsports, and I won it in my first attempt.
I think he was 17 or 18 at the time. So it was Chad being able to do the things that he is aiming to do, that despite his age, Chad is still incredibly talented. He's incredibly determined, and the resilience, because of the things that he's experienced in his past, is really a driving factor into why he's doing this. Because again, he's not going to be defined by his past. He's going to be refined by his future and the actions that he takes right here, right now. Because for Chad, the car isn't just a vehicle. It's freedom. It's identity. And more than anything, it's proof that despite losing so much in life, he still belongs. So a lot of the character elements from Though I Fall were inspired by real people, drivers or a Navy SEAL like Adam Brown. And that's really when I'm developing any story, that's really where I draw from when I'm crafting my characters. And to me, I think that really gives it a human element. You know, obviously we want to draw from real things and real life people, but when I can relate it to specific drivers or someone who did something as, I hate to say insane, but as just absolutely outrageous and sometimes unbelievable, like Adam Brown. And honestly, really, I'm going to reiterate again, go read that book. It's incredible. It really gives it that human element that I was really wanting to come across with Chad. And more than anything too, that's why I chose to write Though I Fall in the first person perspective. It's all from Chad's story, or at least a large majority of the story is all from Chad's perspective. Even the title, Though I Fall, and on the cover of the book, seeing that image that we know, that I can tell you that's Chad on the front cover, I wanted it to be a very personable and personal story of Chad's life at that particular point in his life. Fun fact, that face you see on the front cover of Though I Fall, it's mine, it's me. Can you believe that? I had something very specific in mind when I was making the cover. Heavily photoshopped, of course, but you know, like I said, I had something specific in mind, and I like to think it came out the way I wanted it to come out. Additionally, the car you see on the front, for those of you, again, spoiler alert, in Though I Fall, Chad races in the 24 Hours of Daytona, and he races a McLaren 720S GT3. I actually reached out to McLaren, and someone from their marketing team got back to me, and I asked them, could I use a McLaren on the front cover of the book? And they told me no. They told me no. I was so disappointed. So I had to make up a car that doesn't really exist. I actually worked with a designer to help create this car. So I wanted it to have an artsy approach because obviously I couldn't use the car I wanted. But at the same time, I'm happy with how it came out. But yeah, two little Easter eggs for you right there. With the character of Chad, he's flawed, yes, but he's real. And 1 year later, 1 year since the day of release, I still think about what he, Chad Watson, represents. Legacy, redemption, and going and forging your own path. The moment that really defines Chad for me was in the earlier chapters whenever he's doing kind of an autocross in an old Mustang, and it's his first time ever driving a full-size car, and they really just kind of threw him out there. And he gets laughed at a lot in the story, but he keeps going. He urges, give me one more shot, I've got this. And it just awakens that hunger inside of him. And I remember thinking about that scene, months before I wrote it, and just really getting the image of who Chad was as a person. Someone, I think, who was trying to suppress his past, but instead of pushing it aside or just ignoring it, he embraces it and uses it to find his own destiny. In the year that has followed the release of Though I Fall, the responses that I've gotten from reader reviews and even just messages that I've gotten on social media have been incredible. I'm incredibly thankful to those who've reached out to me just to tell me that they appreciate the story. Maybe they'll share even stories from their own life about how they have a similar journey, or even their own unique journey, and how Legacy Drive and Though I Fall relate to it. For those of you who have written or tried to write before, believe me, there are lots of books I've tried to write but never finished. It's very much akin to living on an island all by yourself. You really just have your own mind, your own thoughts, and whatever it is that you're typing with. It's a very lonely experience at times. There's sometimes I really wish that I just had like some other people I could work with on this, because it's so challenging to make these decisions and to come up with all the little details on your own. But at the same time, once you finish and once you start like sending it out there into the world and getting feedback from people, it is the most rewarding experience. And really, it's seeing your finished book on the shelf next to its prequel. I never thought I would experience that. Seeing Legacy Drive right next to Though I Fall is such a satisfying experience, and as I'll touch on later on in the video, I can't wait to finish up the entire trilogy. So what did I learn from the process of writing Though I Fall? If Legacy Drive was about grief and purpose, Though I Fall was about growth and resilience. When it comes to writing, I learned to trust my instincts more, especially when writing a bit of a darker story like this. There were several times that I really hesitated to write some of the things that I did. And even so, like when I gave it to one of my editors to review, he told me I needed to take it further, and that was very difficult to do. I'm not a parent, but there's almost like a parental feel. You want to protect him. You want to protect Chad because you know he's been through some tough times. So to have to take his feet and kind of just dangle him over the fire a little bit more, it was tough to do. At the same time, you've got to look past that and look toward what the story truly means, and look toward the ending. Look toward what the triumph is going to be at the end of the story, and that's really what made it possible for me to do. So yes, I learned to trust my instincts, and also I learned to just have fun with the writing process, because some of the best moments in the book are really the ones that I didn't even plan for. It's just getting into the groove and writing. Like the whole bubble fish thing. I really don't even know. I don't even know where the idea came from. I just started like walking around the house one day and just singing this stupid bubble fish jingle. My wife was looking at me like I got two heads on my shoulders, like, what is wrong with you? And I said, I think I've got an idea for Chad's sponsorship. And she's like, Paul, no. It was ideas like that that just kind of snuck up on me while I was writing that really made the story what it is. Both of these books, all the books that I write, they're all individual journeys. And to me, that's really what helped define this journey, was the spontaneity of the story and just the creativity, and also like I mentioned before, telling this story from a different perspective, a first-person perspective, mostly from Chad's point of view. So we come now close to the end of the video here, and the question you may be asking is, what's next? Well, as you know, it's been a roller coaster with both of these books. If you follow me on Instagram, I said something very unique when I posted about this being kind of the 1-year anniversary of Though I Fall. I said, don't unbuckle your seat just yet, because the story is far from over. Book 3 is on the horizon, and I'm really excited to share that with you at some point. It's not ready yet, believe me. I would love to share some details about it, but I can't really dive too deep into it. For those of you who have read Though I Fall and you got all the way through it, again, spoiler alert, at the end of the book we meet Chad's son, Miles, that we find out his now wife is pregnant with their second child. So obviously it's going to be diving into Chad's life as a parent and how that factors into Chad's career as a race car driver. So it'll be a very interesting story. I think that's about as far as I'm gonna take it right now, as I want it to be some surprise. Like with the first two books, I do plan to create a trailer for it. I love creating trailers for these books, kind of cinematic trailers, just to kind of showcase what the story's about. This one, for the third book, if I can make it even close to what I'm picturing, it's really going to be something special, and I really look forward to sharing that with you all. And if you've read Legacy Drive and/or Though I Fall, Huh, the Star Wars thing, Andor. That's where they got it from. I would love to hear your thoughts about the story in the comments below. I would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback, if you loved it, even if you didn't like it. You know, give me your honest feedback. I would greatly appreciate that. If you stuck around to this point in the video, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your company during this time. And if you guys want to come along on this crazy journey, not just the writing stuff, but also the racing stuff that I also talk about on my YouTube channel, feel free to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified whenever my videos go live. Be sure to check me out on Thursdays at 7:45 Central Time. I'm racing live on iRacing with the Australian Supercars series, running my own little championship here, and it's been eventful. Also, don't give up on me with the Mustang. Having some work done to the car just to get it set for the remainder of the time trial year here with the SCCA here in Texas. I think you're really going to enjoy the progress that's being made to this car, and I look forward to sharing that with you. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you so much to those who have purchased the Legacy Drive stories, whether it be paperback, hardcover, audiobook, ebook. I just genuinely appreciate the support. It really means a lot to me for someone to go out and purchase your work. It's no greater feeling out there. So guys, thank you so much, and I will see you in the next video.